Presidential race remains too close to call, and here on Newzroom Afrika, channel 405, we are, of course, bringing you the latest. Joe Biden appears to be making gains against President Trump. 5 states remain a toss-up, though: Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Election officials in each state are urging voters to remain calm and allow all ballots to be counted. Now, to give us his take on the U.S. elections, Oscar van Heerden, author and international relations scholar. Oscar, good evening, and thank you for joining us on Newzroom Afrika today.
Good evening, Joe.
Talk to me, Oscar, about what we have seen at midnight, or just before midnight. We saw Joe Biden coming out to address his supporters. His tone, even though bullish, he says, look, we're looking good. Then Trump, a little bit later on, comes out and he says, I've won this, and if anybody tells you otherwise, you must know that they've been messing around with the numbers. What does that say for a first world country that is supposed to be a well-oiled machine? These things are supposed to come easy for them, but we are seeing this kind of struggle that is going on there. And what does it mean for democracy in that country?
Well, you've hit it on the nail, Thabo. You know, it's not just a first world country. It is a country that has positioned itself as the exemplar of modern democracy. And for a sitting president in an election to come out and claim that there is all kinds of fraud and that he will take the matter to the Supreme Court, etc., makes a mockery of that very democracy and that exemplar. And I think that we are all just looking at this with astonishment. How could Trump so directly call the elections into question? And I think it's because he probably has been informed that it's not only a tight race, but chances of him taking this one is very, very slim.
Oscar, has there been anything unexpected coming out of this election so far for you?
Well, the fact that the Biden team has managed to completely flip Arizona is something that was not expected. You know, Arizona has always been a red state. It certainly voted for Trump in 2016, and that, with 11 electoral votes, has been a huge victory for the Biden campaign. Of course, one of the complications, if you look at the numbers at the moment, is that if Biden takes Nevada as well as Michigan, then he's plain sailing, he's through, and he's leading in those two states. Of course, anything can still happen. Whereas the 3 states that Trump is in the lead, albeit marginally, Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, even if he wins those 3, he is still about 5 votes short of the 270 that is required at the Electoral College. So, you know, for me, if you look at the current situation, Michigan is really the key swing state. I know that the Biden campaign is confident that they will still take the home state of Joe Biden, which is Pennsylvania, and the fact that only, 64% of the votes have been counted there, that is indeed still very much part of the game. But if Michigan should swing and go to the Trump campaign, I think the Biden campaign is going to face some significant problems.
Let's talk about Michigan. I mean, by and large, that Latino vote is there, the vote that Biden was unable to engage. I mean, even though he tried, it was a little bit last minute that he tried to engage that particular voter. What are his chances of success?
No, exactly, Thabo. You know, the thing is that, there's 3 things that we've certainly learned or that we must appreciate from this election, regardless of the outcome. The one is that just because there's a high voter turnout doesn't at all mean that that is a negative for the Republicans. I mean, the manner in which Trump and his supporters went on and on about the postal votes and so forth was actually misplaced, because we now see how close the race is, even with those postal votes. So that's the first thing. big turnout doesn't mean it's anti-Republican. 2, diversity voters, and here I'm talking specifically the Latinos and the African Americans, doesn't always vote Democrats. You know, people far too often assume this. And we see now that in terms of the southern states, Florida, Texas, etc., large numbers of African Americans and Latinos voting for Trump, for the Republicans. So that's the second lesson. And then finally, the third lesson that we have to take away from this election is that the pollsters simply cannot be trusted. They got it wrong in 2016. And this time around, if you recall, before going into the election, they said that Biden was comfortably leading with about 10, 12 points. And for the race to be this close at this stage in the elections simply mean that the polls cannot be trusted.
The polls cannot be trusted. That's the point we're going to leave it at. Oscar Van Heerden, I appreciate your time. He's an author as well as international relations scholar.